Hello, everyone. Welcome to Noonie TV. Happy Black Friday, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Before I begin explaining detail to detail my Rojo Blade build, just want to keep in mind for everyone that use this as a general knowledgeable information to help you and guide you, especially if you're learning. Keep in mind if you are doing trials or any trifectas, always respect your leaders and raid leaders. Team comp, keep in mind this is for general audience information. It is very useful for all content. Even though I have experimented and spent many hours perfecting and trying different things, always respect comp from team or raid leaders because every team is different with different strengths and weaknesses. Thank you and hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe for more content.
We'll look at the skills real quick. Blockade of Storms, typical stuff. Funnel Health, you can morph it to the other side, but this one gives a bit more heal. It's also a good spammable when you're heavy attacking. Once you have your full rotation all the time, everything's rotating, nothing's expiring, you can go and help a little bit with a little damage, followed by some heavy attacks because you're on the road to your blade. You should be heavy attacking, and it's very important, especially when it comes to resources. I don't see why healer doesn't do a heavy attack now and then. It's fundamentals from being a tank, healer, or DPS. Refreshing path, something that everyone loves. When you're in a battle, you're getting heals while you're also getting a speed burst as well as stamina and magical recovery. Pretty cool. Also, in its passives, it also gives you extra stuff as well. Energy orb, you need it for a blade because one of the things negatives cons about a blade is they don't give compared to other classes a whole lot of synergies. And what I mean is like those synergies, little bubbles you see in the game where you just press on them, they give you resources. There's not a whole lot. With a blade doesn't really matter because they offer a lot of other stuff, so it kind of balances followed by the other healer. But it's good to have. And some may argue, be like, "Hey, oh, but that's a orb." Yes, definitely it is a orb, but it's a generic orb. Anyone can use this skill from the Undaunted, compared to something like the Templar or other classes where they just have it in their two skill natural class toolkit. The cool thing, siphoning attacks. Now this is awesome. You do sacrifice a little bit of health, but it's a win-win because you're always having resources. You should never be running out of resources, and if you're not stepping on stupid, um, you should have no problem not dying. Understand that as a healer is very important self-awareness. You can't be dying. Your group depends on you in trials. Yes, you're gonna die every now and then. It's perfectly logical, but once you get res, you need to be in good placement position. A healer that's always dying, always on the floor, is not a good healer. So you gotta practice that, um, and that comes with practice, reps, reps, reps. Don't think you're gonna go into a trial or dungeon and just do it one or two, three times and you're good. No, that doesn't make you good. Might make you some type of competent, but just for that being said, reviving barrier, depending on your healer comp, depending on who you're playing with, um, there may be a healer's in charge of barriers, while the other one may be a warhorn or another ulti. That all varies, but I do like to still keep slotted if you have space barrier. If you're gonna be the barrier healer, sometimes the tanks may have it, so sometimes healers may not have it at all. But I like to have it. I just think it's a safe bet. Um, and then here I use, so this is a flex. I'll go over it in a second, but the one I like to use the most, which you're mostly going to be using most of the time, especially in group comp, is aggressive horn. Especially in endgame and trifectas, most of the time you're gonna probably be using aggressive warhorn to elevate the damage and vice versa. However, there are some flex here, and some of the flexes you can use this. Gives you a little defiler, not the most use. I would probably say maybe 4-man you use that a little bit more. Bolstering darkness. Now this one I like, but there's two more of it. What it does, it conjures a ring of shadow, reducing movement speed enemies by 70%. granting major protection for 12 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 10%. As you can see, the hidden refresh synergy, if somebody does press on it, gives movement speed by 70%. That means you're Speedy Gonzalez, followed by a heal of 33k over 4 seconds. So it's a small radius. It's about 5 meters, so it's like a little circle. You'll see later, where you put it on the group, and this morph, right, they can get out of the circle and they'll still have it until it expires, which is about, I think, about 12 seconds or 15 seconds. But if you feel your team is maybe lacking damage, or depending on your group comp, everything's different. That's why I always respect your raid leader. I always keep insisting it. Everyone's a little different with details. You can also go with this one. Where is it at? Take a look. You can also, so as you can see, major protection persists after leaving the group, right? It's 12 seconds. Or you can do the other one, enemies in the area take damage. Now, the win about this one, and this is why it's flex, it's because it's in the circle. So if, let's say, it's in back of the tank or far away, or not in that small 5 meter circle, then you're not really going to get much damage. Good maybe for trash ads, or if you can place it on the boss, but the damage is not that big that I would say it's a must have. It can be flex. In general, this whole skill in general is flex, which you can choose from. However, this is flexible. Like I said, most of the time you're going to be using aggressive Warhorn or barrier, or sometimes aggressive Warhorn and something else depending on the group comp. The typical stuff, healthy offering. I use this morph because gains minor mending for 10 seconds, increasing healing them by 8%. That's just a win-win in PvE game content. Radiant regeneration. It's just healing. The Otler. Now it's flexible. You can choose. I use this one. The other person used the blood morph. They're both the same. They just do have some slight differences. It's up to you. As the healer and combat player. Now, as you may know, combat player is a must. You have to place it in the group. Don't let it expire. Gives you minor berserk, minor resolve, increases your damage done by 5%, and it gives resistances. Never let that expire. That is your bread and butter. In general, as a blade, you should have all the dots up. All of them. They should never be expiring, but no one's perfect. You know, when they're all up, that's when you start doing your heavy attacks every now and then. Another thing too is because of this, the siphoning passives, right? You get very quick ulti, as you can see, followed by other good stuff. That's why sometimes it's good. It may be good to use this one. Where is it at? Maybe good to use siphoning attacks, channel portion. Oh no, wrong one. Soul siphon, right? Gives health to the group. You jump up. Also gives a synergy. That one may be come in handy. It's why you would use it. It will be flex because it's super cheap. Instead of waiting for the barrier, sometimes you'll be like, oh shit. And because it's cheaper and because of the passives of the soul siphon in the tree, you're gonna get OT really quick. So this may come in handy. However, it is flex because you can. There are other OTs that may be better, but it does have a quick synergy, so they may benefit the group depending where you're in. Okay. And with that being said, that's all for the skills. Let me take a look. Okay. Potions and food. So for food, I personally like using a big with sugar skulls. I feel this just gives you a big pool of resources, and just like anything, when it comes to DPSing, healing, tanking, having those big resources I think are super important. However, I do understand that some people may use other foods because they may give recoveries or little things that they may be lacking or worried about, from surviving or even having resources. In my case, I never really have a problem because my resources are so big, followed by heavy attacks. I feel if you're heavy attacking, you should have no problem whatsoever. Um, you just gotta master it. But like I said, everyone has their niche and everyone has their way of healing, tanking, or DPSing. So you gotta find that niche, and once you do, you master it, and that's how you become a better in whatever role you choose to do. Potions, you can go with, and this also depends on your group comp. You can go with um, the Magica Hot Pods, gives you sorcery, prophecy, spell critical, spell damage, or you could be safe bet and use the tri potions. In my case, I probably enjoy more the tri potions. I think it's just a safe bet, but depends your group comp. Sometimes they just want that extra oomph, so that's up to you. If you're in four man or you're in a fight that especially trash ads or whatever. I mean, and you're running out of potions, cheap potions work as well, depending on the situation. Like for example, if I'm doing a dungeon, I'm doing Fungal Grotto. I'm not really gonna waste my time using tries or hot pots. I'll save them. Just get use these. Okay, the weapons. So this is a Rojo build. Um, have my Joro Guidance Restoration Staff. Okay, this is what I use. See, it applies buffs to everything, minor buffs, damage shields, and applies to yourself and allies by 40%. That is just a win-win. Follow the other recoveries. Monster Helm, we'll talk about it in a second, but then I also have Roaring Opportunist. Okay, now we go to Monster Helms. Okay, so as you can see, I have this um, Rakungamas Sentinel. Now I have this. Now this is just. I just want to say you can go with so many ways with different monster helms. I'll get to the most important ones, but this one I wanted to point out because this is a safe bet. This one is very easy to get. Is it the best? No, not by any means. If anything, it feels more like a try push into the group. If anything, however, this is a safe bet. It's easy to farm, and this is for something if you don't have any monster helms in your arsenal, right? And you gotta go do something really quick, a core, whatever. You can go farm this real quick until you start getting better monster helms. Um, and it gives resources, it gives some health. Not the best. Cooldown's pretty long, but hey, it does give some resources back, and tanks love when a healer can give resources. So they're not really gonna complain too much about this unless they're like super meta. But like I said, better safe than not. So the typical Rojo build is usually Symphony of Blades, right? Keep in mind not everything's full traits here because I'm just giving an example. I have other stuff in my other healer, but I just wanted to show in the video. Used to be a little bit better. It changed a lot, but you could still use Symphony. It's all going to depend on your healers. What I personally like is I like using Ozan's. What does Ozan do? Overhealing yourself or ally grants them 4,272 armor for 1.1 seconds. Healing gives minor vitality for 1.1, increasing the healing received damage strength by 6%. I like this one. I think this one's really good. But a lot of times people are going to pick, the other healer may have it. If the other healer may have it, then you might have to try something else. The blind's also good too. Gives you the minor force, increasing the critical damage by 10%. Also, tiny damage shield. The damage shield is pretty sucky, but that that minor force and critical damage is definitely a win-win. When sometimes teams may not, and this one comps come in, may not want you to use it because maybe they're over the cap, you know. And if that's the case, then something else may be better because you'll be overuse. Other things that are situational, they are still used, but maybe kind of met at the moment, but can be used in situational. Troll King used to be used a lot, can still be used in certain situations, or if you that's the only helm you have. When you heal yourself with a knife, they're still below 50%. Recovery is increased by 925 for 10 seconds. It used to be used a lot more because it used to be increased by over 1,000 something. And they nerfed it not so long ago. Still okay, but situational. Mighty Chuden, I don't really use that anymore. Um, I probably not for a healer. What else? What's the another one? Symphony of Blades, Earth Gore can be one as well. Used to be used a lot, not so much anymore, but you can use that. And Knife Flame, I used to like that before. For me, it's because I personally, this is just my preference. I don't like anything that procs like a percentage procs, 20% chance. Not bad, but I don't like it. I like something that are instant procs, and I don't like anything that's too much cooldown. I like to have it pretty instant, even if it doesn't give the biggest benefits. But that's just me. All right, let's look. Anything else here that I'm missing? Okay, the next thing is champion points. All right, fighting finesse. You gotta have that crit damage and crit healing. I mean, most healers now optimal. It's all about that crit damage and crit healing. You know, you want to help the group and you also want to heal the group. Also, crit heals also give more. They give more damage and they give heals, so it's just a win-win. Okay, here is optional. You should not be having Spiro Mastery. I had it on for 4-man content, but in trials I really don't put it on. That is not for healer's job. Is not to rest people. Um, your job is to always be self-aware and be available, never dead. You know, and healing the group. If someone's dead, let someone else pick it up. Rejuvenation, fortify, boundless vitality. Okay, depending if you have shields, Bastion may come in handy. A lot of it's just flex. What does I have to say? Your jewelry. Make sure your jewelry most of the time. You can mix and match. So what do I have on this one? Like I said, this is just for experimental purposes. So I try different stuff. Okay, so here I have magic or recovery. It's okay to have like maybe one or two pieces if you feel you need resources, you know. But most of the time in optimal group, you're probably gonna have, and I said this is a situation, it becomes a little different. You're probably gonna have it to bloodthirsty and damagey. You know, weapon and spell damage, because you know damage does help with heals. The more damage you have, the bigger your heals. And if you know never noticed that, look at your vigor. Notice when you have a ton of weapon and spell, your vigor heals are bigger than when you don't. That's the difference between that and penetration. Anything else I have to say? I think that's about it. Have any questions or comments, please comment below.